Okay, welcome everyone to our first office hours of 2020, well, not of 2021 for fall. And like we were saying earlier, surprise, it's already September 15th. And I did see in the chat that Abby has some questions she wasn't able to get to us. So we'll make sure we take care of those. I see that Dee Dee's already responding. So anyhow, welcome. Okay, today's topics are out-of-state ETRs because there have been recently a flood of questions about out-of-state ETRs, and it was kind of surprising to both Dee Dee and myself. So we're going to just kind of go over that fairly quickly, ask any questions. Once again, we were going to talk about digital signatures if you need that, just because once again, we have heard from several districts that they are still doing, virtual IEPs, ETRs, etc., because it's more convenient for parents. They learned that through last year. I'm going to talk quickly about surrogate parents, and I know that's a major topic, not only in our region, but definitely in our region. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our Beyond Compliance series and why that hasn't rolled out yet. And Dee Dee's been diligently working through transferring from Google to Canvas, and we're still recording because we had to break up all the modules. But anyhow, we'll move along and we'll just get your questions in and out. So, okay. Dee Dee, you want to go forward?
Thanks, Helen. So yeah, as Helen said, what we've noticed over the past several weeks is a tremendous amount of move-ins from out of state. We're not sure if this is attributed to the pandemic or what, but typically I may get questions around this, once every couple of years. And I've had 4 districts contact me in the last month about students moving in from out of state. So a lot of questions around what do we do with the ETRs? Can districts accept and adopt an out of state ETR? Do you have to do a new evaluation? What is the timeline for that? And how are they coded in EMIS? So I just wanted to take a minute or two to address these for you. So can you accept and adopt an ETR from out of state? And the short answer for that is yes, you can. Obviously, as a district, you're going to review that, and whatever your intake process is, I would think that might involve some of your internal monitoring members, but you're going to review that. If it gives you the information that you need and you feel that the components are there that align with the way we do things in Ohio, even though it may not look the same, then absolutely you can adopt and accept. So there's been some misconception that when you get an out-of-state ETR that you are automatically have to do a new evaluation. And that is not the case. If you are satisfied with the ETR, even though it's a little bit different, but you've got the information that you need and it's been done properly, you can accept it. So that also kind of leads to, do you have to do a new evaluation? The answer for that really is, it depends. So again, if there is critical information that we require in Ohio that is not contained in that ETR, and you need to ensure that the ETR properly addresses every area for a suspected disability and it doesn't, then you're going to obviously want to do a new evaluation. Or the other thing would be if a student comes in and that ETR is expired, then, obviously there again, you're going to want to move to a new evaluation. So then I'm always asked about the timeline. I know that many districts assume, oh my goodness, we've got 30 days to do this. That's not true. The timeline for 30 days only applies to new evaluations. There is no stated timeline for when you are taking a move-in. All that is outlined in IDEA is it's very vague, is that you do so in a timely manner. Now, that's left up to interpretation, obviously. You know, a good rule of thumb is you're going to try to do it within 30 days if that's possible. That's not always possible, and that's okay. The important thing to remember is that when you have a student, whether it's in state or out of state, honestly, who moves in and you are rejecting their documents and you are moving through the process of an evaluation, that you must provide FAPE to the student during that time. So, and that means even if their IEP is expired, or even if their IEP needs amended, you are still providing FAPE based on what you have during that entire process. And you know, I'm sure all of you know that if you do not have an active IEP, that's why Ohio created that NIEP EMIS code, because what that does is it serves as a placeholder that shows the state that the student does not have a current IEP, but that the district is still providing services. So you're not completely ignoring the fact that this is an eligible student with special needs. You are providing services as you work on an evaluation and an IEP. So then back to the ETRs, then I'm always asked, well, how do we code those? So let's just take a look. These are slides that came right from the Ohio EMIS Association. So as I just said, it doesn't matter if you're adopting an ETR or an IEP from within the state or out of state. They are separate from one another, obviously. The coding for ETR and IEP are going to be different. When you adopt and accept an ETR or an IEP, I know that you all know this, you own the timelines. So if there's any non-compliance, you own that, and that's okay. You just need to be aware of that. If you choose not to adopt an ETR that came from Ohio, then when you move to the reeval and you do that evaluation, it's coded as a reeval, so it's an RETR, because the reason for that, it doesn't matter if that ETR was expired by 8 years, that child still had an initial Ohio evaluation. So you can only have an initial Ohio evaluation once in your lifetime. So it's going to still be an RETR no matter how old that previous ETR was. If they come from out of state and you choose not to adopt it and you immediately move to an evaluation, then that one is going to be coded as an initial ETR, because even though the child had previously been found eligible and had an ETR, this will be their first ETR in the state of Ohio. So again, that only can happen one time. Now the reporting for, as I just said, that transfer, there is no designated time limit, as I just shared with you. And that's true whether it's out of state or in state, okay? And you can see where in the revised code that's coming from. But as I already mentioned to you, you are obviously responsible to provide FAPE until you're able to either adopt or you're developing a new IEP for the student. And again, as I said, that 30-day rule is only when you are implementing a new IEP. So hopefully that answers all the questions around transfer from in-state and adopting from out of state. Any questions about anything I just covered? Okay, and here's just a nice little visual that we put together a few years ago when, again, there was a lot of confusion around this. And this was actually asked at, I believe this was at the state psychologist conference. And so Michael Petrasek was kind enough to sort of do a Q&A and say exactly how these are coded. So this is just a recap of everything I just shared. It's just in a nice visual format that's really easy to look at. And we refer to this often when we get these questions. Okay, so as Helen mentioned, we wanted to just take a moment to sort of revisit the challenge of getting signatures during virtual SPED meetings. We heard from districts across our region that even when there was no pandemic going forward and everybody was back to business as usual, face-to-face, they would continue to hold ETR IEP meetings virtually, because as a nation and certainly in our state, we saw a huge increase in the participation of families when we offered to do this virtually. And it makes sense because it's much more convenient for them. And it's also much less intimidating for many folks to not to have to come into the building and to be able to do it virtually. So we know that most districts are going to continue to do that, but that does present a little bit of challenge in getting signatures. So Helen and I created a 4-minute video that literally walks you through step by step and shows you how to get signatures using the whiteboard feature in Zoom or Google Meet. So that is available. We've got a live link here, but we have time this morning. If you guys would like to see that, I can go ahead and play it. If you don't need it, then we'll move on. So if you maybe just want to put in the chat box or unmute and let us know if that's something you'd like us to play. As I said, it's 4 minutes long, so it's fine either way. If you've already seen it or you know how to do it and you don't need that info, we'll keep going.
Yeah, we can add the link to the chat. Mary, I see you, but I don't know if I don't think you're asking anything. Sorry.
That's okay. I watched it before, but I would love to watch it again if you could send the link, please.
Okay.
Okay, I can't put the link in the chat only because, oh, sorry. Wait a minute, maybe I can. Give me just a second. I probably cannot because I'm presenting. So because I'm in presentation mode, I can't copy that. I would have had to have already done that, and I apologize. I should have done that. So what I can do though is we can send you guys the link
Okay.
afterwards.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll do that. We'll make sure we send it out afterwards.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I don't think this is news to anyone unless some people on here actually have surrogate parents that may not be on our state support team list. We updated it for 21-22, and because of COVID, some people have come off. I'm not going to say it was only because of COVID, but we double checked with everybody that is on the list that I have now, but there were less people. However, and I'm sharing the name because they don't care. Akron Public had like an emergency situation and they were asking me what they would do if they couldn't get a surrogate parent. I said, you have to have a surrogate parent. So what they went ahead and did was they reached out to some retired teachers, retired admin, and we have Margot Costello on as a retired admin on our listserv, but I know she only serves like the Medina area. However, we added, because I was almost in shock because I'm getting these dings that, okay, someone is signed up to take the test, somebody is certified now. And so we have 3 new people that we're adding, and I'm going to bring this up in forum and just ask because I was asking about, how can we do an outreach? And Akron went ahead and reached out to their admin. And I think sometimes people just don't know about being a surrogate parent. Anyhow, there are 3 new people added. And I will say, Abby, there is one that will not only serve Akron and Summit County, but she specifically put Revere. And we have another one that I think is willing to serve all districts practically. So we will be updating that list and sending out a new surrogate parent list. But I was just going to mention, even in our forum, because I hear constantly from districts that there are no surrogate parents. So if that is a problem in your area, that might be something you want to try and reach out to maybe some retired admin or teachers or whatever. It seemed like Akron was able to get 3 within a couple days. So, and like I said, fortunately, they're willing to serve other districts. And that's really all I have to say about that. Okay, and Dee Dee and I were talking about our Beyond Compliance virtual classrooms. And last year we did live Zooms, and we also had the Google Classroom. Well, we're switching over to Canvas, and Dee Dee is a lucky person that's doing most of our Canvas work. And so we will have the ETR IEP transition in preschool completely asynchronous. We went back in, and instead of having like 2 hours or whatever, we are breaking everything up into smaller modules. So it'll be easier, like if you just have a new teacher or maybe a teacher that has gone from elementary to high school, I'm thinking transition, that you want to onboard. The modules will be broken up. There are, you can do the whole series for credit, but we've broken the modules up so that it's not such a long period of time, that if somebody just needs a refresher, they can go and watch something. You could use it in a staff training if you wanted to. So basically, I know a lot of people have been asking, when are we getting these out? When are we getting these out? And Dee Dee and I are recording a little bit more this afternoon. And then I think Dee Dee has everything will be ready to go by tomorrow, up to our IT person. So we're hoping by breaking these up into smaller modules, they'll be easier to facilitate or easier for anyone, teacher, staff, whatever, to go in and maybe view something that they just want a refresher on. Dee Dee, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, thanks, Helen. Absolutely. Like Helen said, the reason that we did it this way is to make them much more user-friendly. Whereas when we did it last year, if you'll recall, we had asynchronous components, but we had a 3-hour Zoom. Yeah. And so folks had to be able to attend that, where we dug into, I would say, the more complex areas. So for IEP, we saved like PLOP goals in section 7, which are our high non-compliance areas for the Zoom. And obviously we know that everybody can't do that. And so like Helen said, we have, for IEP, we literally broke it up section by section. And so there are modules that are only 5 or 10 minutes that are very easily done, during a planning period or anything. And then probably our longest ones are about 35 minutes. So what we did do as well is we still tried to incorporate opportunities for folks to take the information that they're learning and look at their own documents. So there are lots of opportunities where we prompt people for thinking or for conversation, but we just say, pause the module here. Or if you're working alone, we want you to jot this down or look at this. So there's still an engagement level in them. And so like Helen mentioned, we tried to make them ideal so that you could use those at a staff meeting for mini PD or short PD. If you've got an all-day PD and you're offering sort of chunking it up throughout the day, that you can offer some of these modules, or that you could use it, as a standalone PD that your staff can do asynchronously, in their own classroom or at home or whatever. And the only thing I wanted to add was if participants complete an entire course, whether it's ETR, IEP, transition, or the ones that are specific to preschool, they will get contact hours. It's 5 hours for ETR, 7 hours for IEP, 5 hours for transition, and then our preschool ETR and IEP are both 3 hours that are Ohio approved already. So those automatically go towards their step up to quality hours. They're already Ohio approved, which is great.
And Dee, I just wanted to add, we also for the ETR and for transition have kind of it used to be a prerequisite. It probably would be if you're going for the contact hours. We have the universal from the state. So that kind of goes over, and then we still break it down. And then all the resources, and I updated one of the transition resources just based on some things that happened during a couple reviews. Because naturally what we're putting on, that's why we call it beyond compliance. We're going towards best practice. So those were all still available too. But I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Helen. That's a good point. I forgot to say that this is not just a repeat of what was in our Google Classroom. We added content that wasn't there previously. So even if you have folks who looked at this before, or you've been through it before, based on some changes that have come down in the last year from OEC, which I'll be tackling at Forum on the 21st, but we have updated the content in here, particularly around IEP and transition. And so there's new content that wasn't there before. In fact, because we get asked about it so often, Helen and I tried to be proactive, and we put together a 20-minute module that is just around the difference between accommodations and modifications, so that it's crystal clear. And we feel really confident that if someone watches that 20-minute module, they will leave competent and confident in the difference between those and how to document in the IEP. So yeah, there's a lot of new stuff in there. And so hopefully this will be even better than what we had in Google Classroom. And we had such a tremendous response from our region about how helpful they were and how many districts were utilizing them, that we've tried to make this even better by transferring it over to Canvas.
Yeah, and there's nothing really new in transition. I do probably go in depth a little bit more. You'll know when you listen to me, I don't like recording. I'd rather be face to face. But anyhow, what the one document I did update, I think it was transition services and activities. I kind of really called out some things that, when the state comes in, they'll call things minimally compliant. Well, to me, there isn't a minimally compliant. It's either compliant or not. But like we said, we're trying to go beyond that, so there's good outcomes for students. And I'm not saying that isn't happening, but in one situation, just it was found compliant to have like one sentence for pins and whatnot. And we have some new OEC monitors at the state that are also learning. So I just needed to update that for my satisfaction, I guess. And also to just, you know, we are the purpose of the transition section and all the sections, you know, are to have good outcomes for students. So that's all I'm going to harp on about that.
All right, thanks, Helen. So any other questions, anything that you would like us to clarify more, or any additional topics that you'd like us to talk about today? Now's your chance.
We could turn off the recording. Yes, Abby.
Okay, so for our Q&A session, we will go ahead and end today's presentation, and I will go ahead and stop recording.